I'm calling to order this meeting of the Silver City Town Council. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. The first item on our agenda that I'd like to address now is proclamations. We have 3 proclamations tonight, and so for the first 2 I will come down to the podium and the microphone and present that to those who are receiving it, and for the third one I will pronounce that from up here as I sit with the other counselors. First, since April 2017 is Fair Housing Month, the town would like to honor and recognize this with a proclamation. We'll do that one first. And then secondly, since Copper Country Senior Olympics Day is April the 22nd, the town will also honor this with a proclamation, and I'll do that one from the podium as well. So we'll first of all do the Fair Housing Month proclamation. Kim, would you and whoever else you have with you to receive this please come forward? We have Cassie and Sissy as well. Whereas fair and equal housing is a right guaranteed to all Americans, and whereas the principle of fair and equal housing is not only a national law and policy, but a fundamental human entitlement. And whereas all citizens have the right to live where they choose within their financial means. And whereas people must not be denied housing because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, or family status. And whereas the town of Silver City acknowledges the importance of assuring fair and equal treatment to all citizens, and whereas the town of Silver City, the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments, and the Silver City Regional Association of Realtors will supply fair housing information to the public, and the town will display a fair housing proclamation at the City Hall Annex. And whereas the town of Silver City, the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments, and the Regional Association of Realtors is committed to highlighting the Fair Housing Law, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, by continuing to address discrimination in our community, to support programs that will educate the public about the right to equal housing opportunities, and to plan partnership efforts with other organizations to help assure every American of their right to fair housing. And whereas the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics commits all realtors to providing equal professional services without discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, family status, handicap, sexual orientation, gender identity, and national origin. Therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the town of Silver City, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2017 as Fair Housing Month, and urge all citizens to participate in appropriate activities to commemorate this event. On the behalf of the town of Silver City, I'd like to present this to whoever's going to receive it. Cassie, okay, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
No, I don't need to say anything. Thank
We
you
want to
very
hear.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. This next proclamation is to honor the Copper Country Senior Olympics. And since Councilor Cano is a member of that program, she's going to come down and help me present this to Mr. Fred Baca, and who else, Fred? Anyone else?
Mario.
Okay, y'all, please come forward. Why don't you read this? Let me get that down.
A proclamation. Whereas the Copper Country Senior Olympics are in their second year of existence, and whereas the Copper Country Senior Olympics program is dedicated to offering adults aged 50 and over with opportunities for healthy, active lifestyles by promoting physical fitness and mental and emotional well-being for seniors. And whereas the Copper Country Senior Olympics program offers opportunities for seniors to participate in 31 local events, 25 state events, and 15 national events. And whereas 24 seniors participated in the New Mexico Senior Olympic State Games and brought home 16 gold medals, 17 silver medals, 6 bronze medals, and 11 ribbons. And whereas Copper Country Senior Olympians Fred Baca and Maria Elena Galindo were named Golden Athletes for 2016 by the New Mexico Senior Olympics program. And whereas Copper Country Senior Olympian Fidel Quintana was honored with the Spirit Award by the New Mexico Senior Olympics program in 2016. And whereas Copper Country Senior Olympics coordinator Mario Quintana was honored with the Rose K. Wood Award by the New Mexico Department of Aging and Long-Term Services because of his work with seniors and building the local program. And whereas the Copper Country Senior Olympics promotes senior health and fitness by hosting a senior health fair, which includes collaboration with several local entities. And whereas the local 2017 Senior Olympics season officially began on April 22nd, 2017, now therefore, Ken Ladner, Mayor of Town of Silver City, and on behalf of the Town Council, extend congratulations and recognition to Copper Country Senior Olympics, and do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2017 as Copper Country Senior Olympics Day, and urge all Silver City citizens to applaud and support our Copper Country Senior Olympics program for their outstanding athletic accomplishments and sportsmanship.
You want to come on up? And would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I sure would. Honorable Mayor, Dr. Ken Ladner, Councilors Jose Ray, Lupe Cano, Cynthia Bettison, Linda Amon Smith, Manager Alex Brown. I am Fred Baca, President of the Copper Country Senior Olympics. We are very honored this evening and are thrilled with this recognition. Thank you very much. I would especially like to recognize a few people who have been instrumental in the success of Copper Country Senior Olympics and have been with us since the inception of our organization. Councilwoman Lupe Cano and her mother, Patricia Cano, seated in the audience, both have been critical to our success. Let us not forget Councilman Jose Ray, who gets out there and participates. A very special thanks to Mr. Alex Brown, our town manager, who has supported Senior Olympics for many years. We are very, very thankful. The mission of the Copper Country Senior Olympics is to promote a healthy lifestyle for all seniors, as well as to foster a positive state of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. We make an effort to do this by sponsoring over 20 various events from February to May. And this year, we might even be going into June as we are adding a couple more events. At this time, if I may, I would like to have Mr. Senior Olympics, our local events coordinator, Mario Quintana, give you a little bit more on Senior Olympics in Grand County. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred, also for your great support. Mayor, council, I want to thank the town of Silver City for all your support. Special thanks to Alex Brown and Lupe Cano for her support to the Copper Country Senior Olympics. She does it all. Also, I would like to mention the board members. We have Spike Landers, Patricia Cano, and again Fred, and Lencho Anaya, participant. Jerry, don't leave, my friend. And Jerry Gregorio, he's a participant. And I think Fred took all my notes. Also, as I was saying, this year's theme is bring a friend to our Olympics. April the 22nd is a big event for Copper Country, and we have it at Foxfield. We have open ceremonies. Hopefully you can attend, help us out, support Senior Olympics. I just want to thank again everyone, and I'd like to mention Joe Ray. He's been part of our Senior Olympics for many years. I tried to get Alex Brown to get his shoes out of the closet. Hopefully he'll do it this year. And also, if you all can come down, I'd like to give you all a medal for support of Copper Country Senior Olympics. Council, would you come down? And thank you again for all your support. Thank you. Thank you, Lupe. It's not a fourth or fifth, maybe a first, second, or third. Jory, thank you.
This is a first for me. This is pretty exciting.
Thank you for supporting us. But you know the best thing about it, I'm gonna have to give you a silver. But it's a medal.
It's a medal.
It's a medal.
I'll take it. You win the gold now. Next time.
Uh-oh. We got the signing one. The gold.
20 of them. Like, to be one in every event. That's how that's going to work.
Okay. Thank you for all your work, hard work.
Thank you, and good luck on the 22nd.
Oh, we're gonna have to give you a bronze.
I'll take a prize.
Thank you again.
I'll take the participation. By the way, those opening ceremonies on the 22nd start at 9 o'clock. Is that right, Fred? 9 o'clock? At Foxfield, yeah. Everybody ready? This third proclamation is a reaffirmation and celebration of the core values of the town of Silver City. Whereas the town council of the town of Silver City finds that it is appropriate that certain core principles of this council and the government which it forms be reaffirmed, celebrated, and proclaimed to the inhabitants of the town and to all others who may inquire. And whereas, in Resolution 2003-31, entitled Resolution for the Restoration and Defense of Constitutional Rights, the Town Council affirmed the town's values of inclusiveness and protection of persons from unconstitutional activities regardless of source, And whereas the town celebrates the fact that it has faithfully adhered to those principles expressed in Resolution Number 2003-31 and will continue to do so, celebrating inclusiveness, the protection of persons under the law, and the equality of persons regardless of their circumstances. And whereas the town's territorial charter of 1878 provides for the regulation of persons and property for the health, welfare, and safety of the town, its inhabitants and visitors, and the town council notes that there exists no express or implied power in said territorial charter authorizing this government to regulate, detain, or otherwise participate in matters involving possible undocumented persons. Now therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the town of Silver City, and on behalf of the town council, do hereby proclaim, A, that the policy declarations and expression of community values of Resolution Number 2003-31, as well as the often expressed town policies of inclusiveness, fairness, and equality of persons are hereby affirmed and will continue to be made applicable to all departments and employees of the town. And B, the departments of the town of Silver City shall continue the practice of not utilizing their limited resources for searching, surveilling, seizing, or detaining possible undocumented persons who have not committed a crime under the state or local law within the town. And C, the department shall continue their policy of refraining from making any inquiries into the status of citizenship of any person they may encounter. And D, the department shall not oblige any request from any federal law enforcement to detain, surveil, or identify persons of possible undocumented citizenship without a lawful warrant or court order supporting such request. And E, the departments of the town of Silver City government shall not join nor provide resources to any task force or other assemblage of law enforcement created for or acting with a purpose of enforcing federal immigration law. In witness whereof, I have hitherto set my hand and caused this official seal of the town of Silver City to be affixed this 11th day of April, 2017. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public input, and going in the order that people signed up. First is Patricia Cano, Museum Society event.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I am Patricia Cano, as you said, and I am the secretary of the Silver City Museum Society. As you know, the Silver City Museum Society will be celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, beginning with a special anniversary exhibit, which will open on May 19th. To go along with that anniversary exhibit, which is titled 50 Years Ago in Silver City, the Silver City Museum Society is putting on a big fundraising event. The proceeds of that event will go toward a capital campaign that the Silver City Museum Society has launched to raise $50,000 within a period of time to help with the maintenance of the historic mansard roof of the Ailman House. The event that we are planning will take place on May 20th, the day after the opening of the exhibit. It is going to be a Beatles tribute. put on by New Mexico's only Beatles tribute band called Twist and Shout. It will take place from 6 to 9 o'clock p.m. again on May 20th. And the band will be recreating a live Beatles concert with authentic instruments, costumes, and also will cover 3 periods of music from Beatles history. Tickets are on sale now in different places, especially the Silver City Museum store. I know that many of you are already members of the Silver City Museum Society and that you have purchased your tickets. But what I would like to ask is your help in getting the word out so that this can be a successful event, and this is something really, really good for Silver City to have something different. We greatly appreciate the sponsorship of the town of Silver City and your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you at not only the opening of the exhibit, the Beatles tribute concert, but all the other events that will take place from then up until till the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Next is Jane Foraker Thompson. I would like to just remind everybody while she's coming up that by town ordinance, you have 5 minutes to give your public input.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I am speaking to the proclamation you just read that refers to undocumented people. On the subject of immigration, I'm particularly concerned about 3 groups of people. First are refugees, second are dreamers, and third are members of families that reside here where some of them may be undocumented. Refugees are defined as people who are seeking asylum from their homeland, which is violent, and they are in danger. The reason that we have such an influx of unaccompanied juveniles in the last couple of years is that they are from several of the failed states in Central America. They don't have viable governments. When I'm referring to El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, the police are corrupt. People are disappeared. They have drug cartels that run things. And young boys, as they approach teenage years, are conscripted by force into the gangs that are used by the cartels, and young girls are systematically raped. So the parents were so desperate that they sent their children unaccompanied through Mexico on that terrible train called La Bestia to get to the United States for safety and a future. And many of them travel on top of the train, and some of them fall off and are injured or killed. So they're coming at great risk. And when they entered the United States, instead of being welcomed, which is what international law demands, they have been put into detention, which is a crime that our government has been committing. And not only a crime, but it's inhumane and indecent. The second category is the dreamers, and as most of you probably know, that means young people who were brought across the Mexican-U.S. border when they were very little, and by their parents or whomever, and they are now in their teens or early 20s. They have been good citizens. Most of them are in school. Many of them are in college, and they seek to be good citizens. So rather than deporting them, I would recommend that they be welcomed and given a pathway to citizenship. And the third category is families among us who have undocumented members, whether they're grandparents or parents, and they could be deported at any time and have been under this new regime, and sometimes leaving children without parents. So all of these categories are people in need, people that we should be welcoming rather than treating as criminals. And so I'm very much in favor of this proclamation. However, I would recommend that it be compared to the 9 recommendations that the ACLU has put forward, and that check to make sure that it meets all of those criteria. Because the ACLU, as you know, is a body that is mainly concerned with protecting the Constitution of the United States and making sure that all government agencies are in compliance with it. And if you take these 9 points and add it to that proclamation, you will know that it is legal and it will be upheld in the courts of law. So I would recommend the passage of the proclamation, but I would add to it these coverage of 9 articles. Linda Amon Smith knows that most of these 9 points are covered by the proclamation, but there are a few that are not. And I have a copy of this if you would like a copy for all of the councilors to look at. But anyway, that is my point. So we don't want to see these people among us who have been good citizens deported or harassed, and they deserve a good chance to go to citizenship. Rather than treating them as criminals, we should welcome them as citizens. So that is my point. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jane. If you have a handout, you can give it to the town clerk and over here. Next on the list is Barbara Tiggy.
Listen, I'm speaking about the third proclamation. Members of the Town Council, Mayor Ladner, thank you for your time. My name is Barbara Teggy. I'm currently the Vice President of the Southwestern Chapter of the ACLU of New Mexico. I was the chapter president and was present when Resolution 2003-31 was passed, unanimously, if my memory is correct. Now, as was the case then, our civil liberties are threatened by a federal government that apparently believes that the rights of its people need to be curtailed in order to keep our nation safe. Resolution 2003-31 states that there is no inherent conflict between national security and the preservation of liberty. The ACLU agrees, as do I. We can be both safe and free. And to believe otherwise is to undermine the very values and freedoms upon which this country was founded and which have been celebrated for the past 240 years. On behalf of my fellow ACLU supporters and for myself personally, as a 23-year resident of the town of Silver City, I thank the mayor and town council for reaffirming the town's values of inclusiveness and respect for the civil liberties of all its residents and visitors. I urge all employees of the town of Silver City, and especially those involved in law enforcement, to continue to engage in practices that respect the constitutions of the United States and the state of New Mexico by adhering to the principles outlined in Resolution 2003-31 and in today's proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cassie Carver, you signed up, but I think you were here for the proclamation of the fair housing, right? Okay. So, Pilar, did you?
I didn't sign up.
No?
I just thought that was just,
Oh, okay. Okay. You thought we were taking roll, huh? You were a school teacher a long time, I know. Next is Candy Larson. Come right up.
I have trouble pronouncing some Spanish names, but nobody can pronounce my name. My name is Candy Larson. I live on the east side of the county. I don't live within city limits, but we do shop here on occasion. Paper bags may seem like an inconsequential issue, but it can be very irritating because I forget my bags. I think they add the paper bags required to be used by businesses in this city, add more volume to the landfill, cause more trees to be cut down. And I've been in different businesses when people have brought in their bags from home, and some of them are not very nice looking. In fact, they're dirty looking. I wish that there was not a rule against plastic bags in this town. Secondly, I had a question or two. Since Governor Martinez proclaimed that this state was not a sanctuary state in 2011, does this city think that its proclamation goes over state proclamations? That's question number one. Question number two, what about violent criminals that are here illegally? Are we not going to turn them into ICE or not detain them if if ICE has requested that they be detained? And I don't think that any of us are talking about the dreamers or about people that are trying to be good, productive people while they're here. And well, I guess that's about all I had to say. I don't remember my third question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to reaffirm from up here that the proclamation reaffirming our values and constitutional rights was a representation of all of us up here. The mayor read it very well, and so all of us feel that way. And what I want to start off by saying is that it is perfectly in line to really love the Constitution and say the Pledge of Allegiance with liberty and justice for all, and recognize that for all is the thing that's really important. I want to acknowledge that out here, the people who are here tonight, the people who are watching on the media, folks of members of various groups, I just really want to acknowledge all of the people of our town who are committed to liberty, justice, fairness, and inclusiveness. Those members who provide opportunities for spiritual and mental and physical health and well-being in our town. I think that we're going to be facing some hard times financially. And I firmly believe that we are all in this together and we should work together. April 22nd is going to be a big day, I can tell from the Senior Olympics. It is also the Tour of the Hill will be in town racing around in the middle of the Criterium. It is also the day for the March for Science and for Earth Day. So there's a lot of opportunities to go express your desire for spiritual, mental, and physical and environmental well-being. Thank you.
Councilor Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to say that the proclamation is a representation of all of us up here at the council. So I am pleased that we could do that and reaffirm our commitment. I was going to mention April 22nd as well, big day for lots of things. I want to specifically mention that on Earth Day, between 10 and 2 p.m., there'll be activities at Golf Park, and then in the parking lot that's next to the Office of Sustainability, which is right off of Golf Park, there'll be the Office of Sustainability will be bulk document shredding. So if you have lots of stuff to shred, bring it in and they will do that for you of your documents. And they'll also accept the recycling of electronics. So make sure that if you want to stop by and do that before you go on to other activities, you have between 10 and 2 to do that. And my understanding is the March for Science begins at 9:30 at WMU. I don't know the exact location, but hopefully we'll find out more where the march begins, and it will end at Golf Park as part of the Earth Day's festivities. So, and then, of course, the Tour of the Gila and Senior Olympics. So, thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kano?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of things to mention with regards to that proclamation. I was talking to a couple of the people who first approached Councilor Amon Smith about working on this project, and Councilor Ray, and they had a couple of things that they were hopeful might happen. The first is that if it's possible for us to print the resolution in the newspaper, that way the community knows that it was passed and exactly what it says. They also asked that if that was done, that if it could also be done in Spanish. And if so, I know of a local professor emeritus that's willing to do that translation if you'd like her to do it.
Do you mean the resolution 2003?
No, the proclamation, I'm sorry, the proclamation, that was. And the other thing is just, I think all of us are aware that there are a lot of new police officers who may not have seen the resolution from 2003, just because we don't expect police officers to read all the resolutions that we pass. So if we could just, at some point, make sure they all get them. The chief's already nodding his head at me, so I'm sure that's going to happen, so thank you. Appreciate that. Moving on to something else. At some point, would it be possible for us to get either Dr. Timmy or someone else to come and do an update about how the recycling is going? If we can add that to staff reports at some point, or if you want to do it. Yeah. Okay, either way. And then the last thing, and this was not reported to the police, so the police have, this is the first the chief is probably going to hear about this, but I feel like sometimes I'm beating a dead horse talking about the intersection of Bullard and 6th, is that the one in front of the clock? It's 6th, right? We had a local professor who was actually hit by a car there a couple of weeks ago. She was not injured. I mean, she ended up bruised, but she wasn't injured enough to go to the hospital or to feel like she needed to call the police because the car hit her and took off. She did post on social media, though, and one of the responses she got was that someone else had been hit by a car there a couple of days before and had had almost the exact same situation happen to them. So if there's anything we can do to, put in some speed bumps or police that intersection or something a little bit better, because I really feel like, two people getting hit and it being kind of okay is scary enough, but if someone, it's not as healthy gets hit, we're going to have a problem. So if we could work on that, that would be great. Yeah, and like I said, they didn't report it, so, the police didn't know, but, yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to the street department for fixing up Cooper Street and Broadway. It's nice now. And also, thank you guys for fixing up for the Tour de Gila. The roads have been passed up pretty nice. And also the Tour de Gila. Be careful with the people, because there's going to be a lot of bikers out there. And we all know that they don't stop. So be very aware of them. I'm sorry, but I got to mention it. And also, talk about speed bumps. The chief, can you make a study there on Jose Barrios School? If possible.
Cooper Street?
No, on Jose Barrios School. Little Walnut, yes, sir. That's all, thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Madison?
I just have a quick question. I've been asked a number of times when Bullard and Broadway will be converted into a stop signs.
We're not going to do stop signs because of the turning radiuses. So I'm waiting. The report, I'm going to have it Monday.
Okay.
Or I should have it this week. And once I get the report basically says that both ways are compatible, either with the lights or with the stop lights, but we cannot put stop signs because of the turning radiuses for the big vehicles, the semis. They say that from pedestrian standpoint, that the lights are safer, but I don't believe that. They have an argument with that because people that have gotten hit, and because they vehicles are just slowing down and not stopping at the intersection and looking. So I have the authority to make that decision. The decision is going to be made, and I'm going to have it changed, and we're going to just put the lights on flashing. And we'll advertise it when we decide to do it officially, but it should be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, can we just look at that a little bit, because I had to call recently when the intersection of Silver Heights Boulevard and Hudson was out, and they were flashing red lights. Apparently, people don't know what that means, so they're just blasting right through it. I'm surprised we didn't have any accidents, so it seems like there's certain things that don't register, and folks, oh, well, it's a highway, do I have to stop? No, I'm just going to go. So let's just, can we kind of have some discussion about options, like maybe all red lights at certain points where nobody gets to go anywhere as pedestrians cross?
Well, let me see what exactly the report says.
Yeah, what the report
I haven't
says.
seen it specifically, and any specific recommendations, but they gave me a general overview of what it's supposed to say.
Okay, so if everybody asks, we're not going to be able to do stop signs there because of the turning radius of the big trucks.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Newman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that the March for Science starts at the Student Memorial Building patio on April 22nd at, I believe, between 9 and 9:30 gather.
Any other comments relative to the corner of Broadway and Bullard? The other thing that we're going to do, I think, is paint big white stop signs actually on the street. And I think maybe the corner of 6th and Bullard might, I know we painted them a while back, but they're kind of faded and gone.
Okay. I'll have streets look at that.
As a matter of information, you've heard us talk about Resolution 2003-30. Was it? We made copies of that resolution and put them on the table as you come in. So if you'd like a copy of that, please pick one up. Also, I'd like to thank all of the volunteers that have been working so hard over the last several weeks to beautify Silver City. We've had projects in the Big Ditch where they collected, I don't know how much, but a lot of garbage. We had a big work project downtown this past Saturday. And also, you may have noticed some flower boxes being You may have noticed some flower boxes being distributed around downtown, and we're here to report about that shortly. Okay, moving right along. Next item is changes to the agenda. Any changes?
No, sir.
Okay, no changes. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the March 21st, 2017 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the town council meeting of March 21st, 2017.
Is there a second? Councilman Menison.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Minutes accepted. The next item on the agenda is reports. Mr. Brown.
First, I'd like to ask Gary Staley if you want to talk about the flower boxes that were put around town, downtown this weekend.
Mr. Gary Staley, good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I can tell you one thing, when there's a car alarm goes off in the driveway or parking lot, I know it's not mine. My 66 Chevy truck doesn't have one. Boy, this has been really political tonight, and I hope mine isn't. We're just here to work. We have a community youth building program in our community that the town's been very supportive of. And we do a project every Saturday somewhere within the community, including some of the cleanup that the mayor mentioned. One of the projects that we have wanted to tackle and have begun to tackle this spring and somewhat over the winter is building some flower boxes for downtown. And our goal has been to really not task anybody financially with, so we've been taking pallets and breaking them down and repurposing them and Mastercraft. The colors you're going to see downtown, our goal is to have at least 24 of these out by summer. There are 10 of them out right now downtown in different areas. There will be another 4 probably within a week. So we'll have 14. We have about 10 more to go before summertime. And the colors are just dependent on what kind of scrap metal Mastercraft has out in their garbage pile, because that's what we use. Our youth have learned a lot of skills from this kind of a project. Councilor Ray has offered to donate some scrap material. We haven't forgotten about that, Councilor. Yours is kind of unique because those would be better maybe to build benches out of or something, and so we're looking at that. But been a kind of a cooperative effort because the Town and Country Garden Club donated some money generously to Main Street for the supplies, including the plants themselves. We had another grant from a year ago where we pre-purchased the soil, and ACE has been kind enough to stockpile that for us and allow us to come pick it up as we need it. I think another nice piece of this has been, and the mayor is very familiar with this, a young man in our community did his Eagle Scout project, which requires a minimum of 110 hours of combined service on an approved project, and so they built a number of these in the mayor's garage. And so these, there's certainly, when the town gets rich, they can replace them with whatever wonderful planters they want to. In the meantime, we hope that you will take care of them. One of the things we hope that comes out of this is that as we continue to place these in front of shops, we're asking a commitment from the shop owners to maintain them, at least to water them. Because when they're set out, they are fully planted and fully functional and in bloom and ready to continue to bloom. And a very simple thing we're asking for is for people to just maintain them. Daily Press is going to maintain theirs until they move, right? And then they may come back once in a while and water too, but we'll see. So anyway, that's our report on that, and we will continue to do our projects. And next year, we hope to be able to raise our own flowers somewhere on town property, and Mr. Brown and I have discussed that. So, thank you.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Brown, any?
Yes, Robert Geisler, report.
A common occurrence in the town now is businesses, private businesses, who are they get their public celebration permit for alcohol, and then they make a request to the town to close off the street, and then use a portion of public property for their profit-making enterprise, and there's no differentiation between nonprofit and profit on this matter. But under the New Mexico Constitution, the town cannot commit public assets to any private source without reasonable compensation. So I've been completing my research on this. I expect to have this done in the next couple days, but I am likely to conclude that from this point on, after tonight's applications are dealt with, that it's likely that there's going to be a fee imposed on those that wish to use town assets for their own purposes. Now, this would not apply if the event is town-sponsored, and I would go so far as to say it would not apply if it was an event sponsored through Main Street, a community event. So in non-community events, not sponsored by the town or by Main Street, there is likely to be a fee commencing with any applications that come in at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. One item I skipped over is a legislative report by Senator Morales, and I received word a little bit earlier that he will be a little late, so I'd like permission to, when he comes in, wherever we are, we'll finish that item of business, and then we'll let him give his report. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir. I wanted to give an update on the recycling.
Okay.
We purchased 2,500 containers. Initially, our sustainability informed us that we had about 1,400 accounts that recycled. We've actually to date delivered 2,300 containers. I've worked with the solid waste, I've checked with the Solid Waste Authority. They haven't seen a significant increase in the amount of recyclables that they're receiving. They haven't had any trash in the recycling yet. So all of that's going well. So seeing that there's such a large number of accounts that are recycling now, we may see a decrease in revenue, because people will be able to start going to smaller containers and paying less. So that's one thing that we're going to have to look at. We might have to look at later on. But it's being very successful now. On the commercial side, there was 110 containers that were supposed to be put out. We put out 130. And on the commercial side, it's more because the Solid Waste Authority's equipment was so old and unreliable that a lot of business just stopped recycling cardboard because they didn't know when it was going to get picked up, so they just started putting in their trash. So we've put out 20 more than we did before. In some instances, we've put 2 or 3 containers at a business in some situations. So on the commercial side, we have seen increased volume. It's very promising. The truck operators, they were both new. They're starting to catch on. My recycling, which I think I told you the first time, was picked up at 5:30. The next time it was at 4:30. Today it was at 1 o'clock. So they're catching on, and so they're getting more efficient and being able to pick up easier and faster. So, okay.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? I see. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown, thank you so much for...
One more report real quick. It's a short one on the trails.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, James.
Mayor and Council, the Mayor had asked me to do some discussion on the trails and what we're doing. Recently, you heard a report and some citizens that had some concerns, and so we've been doing some research, and I think it'll surprise people to know that we have about 15 miles of trails in Silver City, and that's just within the city limits on public property. The facility maintenance staff does some of the work, and mostly the hard infrastructure. If we have to move a fence, move a gate, open a gate, it's the facility maintenance staff that does that. However, we're very dependent and very fortunate that we have a large group of volunteers in the community. And those volunteers are anywhere from dreamers that come into my office frequently and give me ideas and concepts and like to have, and then we have another group that comes in and says, I want to do this. And so over the last several months, what we've been doing is I coordinate the actual work out of my office so that one group doesn't do work that another group just did, or did something that contradicts with. The mayor has spoken with the trails groups as well, and that's multiple plurals. And we'll be having monthly coordinating meetings with the different aspects of trails coordination there in my office. And there's a group of, about 5 or 6, Mayor, that have agreed to help advise the council and help us coordinate. There is a lot of work to do. As many of you have seen, we're moving the trailhead up on Market Street. The parking lot is much improved right now. While doing that, the access into Boston Hill was pretty much eliminated off of Market. There's still work to do off of Cheyenne. We have tons of work on San Vicente and off the trail off of Mountain View. We work with the YCC groups to do that. Gary and his team help me when they can. It all depends on the project and the scale of the project, making sure that we try to get the resources. And we have a lot of issues with trails, that there's tons of private property that is intermixed in our trail system. We can't advertise that you cross private property unless we have a formal agreement in place that allows surface access to somebody else's property. So we are working on that. It takes a considerable amount of time because we have to have surveys done, and we're looking within probably 2 miles on San Vicente, we're going to have at least a half a dozen different property owners, which is a half a dozen different surveys. So it's a very time-consuming process. It's not that we're ignoring the need down there. It's in the Trails and Open Space Plan. Some of these are in the Greenways Plan, and we're following through with that plan as resources allow and surveys come in. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Marshall? I want to thank you, Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall is the kind of person that just sticks to a job and eventually gets it done, and he doesn't make a lot of noise about it, but I've seen him work now for a long time, and I really have a lot of respect for what he does. And going back to the recycling, I want to thank Mr. Brown and those he worked with for taking really kind of a gamble on the recycling program. We had to buy 2 new trucks to make up for that, and it's been really successful. You initially put out, 1,300 recycling bins, and now you're up to what?
1,400. Now we're up to 2,300. We're actually, yeah, because we bought, we're above 2,300, I should say, because I saw them delivering 25 the other day. So we're getting close to we're going to have to order more containers, curbside containers.
So thank you for that, and thanks to all the councilors who have been really working hard on recycling as well. Our community has really embraced it. We're really happy to have with us and honored to have with us Senator Howie Morales, and he would like to give us a report on the legislative session. Senator Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council and staff. Thank you, Alex, for the flexibility with my schedule today. And as every year, I'd like to come in and give a legislative update as accountability to you, as the communities that I represent, as well as the voters who send me up to Santa Fe to make sure that I'm advocating on behalf of our communities. So I come today and sharing what took place in the legislative session, and to be available to answer any questions that you may have. Obviously, we know that we're going to be going back, looking into special session, but I'd like to begin on where we were this legislative session. As we began, it was unlike any other that I've been a part of, and this would be my 10th year going up there, specifically because we were with the budget. And where we started, we went in special session last fall. We expected that we took care of the budget, and there was some impacts that had taken place. But there was $50 million that was vetoed out of that portion of the budget, which left us unbalanced for this fiscal year in 17. We started the first day of legislative session. You knew it was going to be a different tone when opening day, when you have guests there and you have different ceremonies, and you work through it without a lunch break until 6 p.m. on opening day. You knew that set the tone of all the work that had to be done. We did the fiscal solvency package within the first 2 weeks. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of impacts that took place, but it was done. So that hopefully is going to get us through 17. I know that there was concern from the governor's office that we might need a government shutdown, or we may need to close some agencies in the temporary portion of, or the remainder of fiscal year 17. That doesn't need to happen. I believe that we took care of the budget as appropriate for fiscal year 17. Fast forward a little bit going into fiscal year 18. I think in fiscal year 18, that's a concern that I have, that many of you have concerns. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank Alex, and I want to thank all the representation of the councilors who had been up there and advocating, because it was important, and your voice was heard. When we had pieces of legislation that would have harmed the town of Silver, it was your communication and your advocacy that helped. Office of Natural Resources, for example, was going to take a big chunk of some funding that was available for our communities, and fortunately, communicating with James, communicating with Alex, communicating with many of you on the panel, we were able to fortunately get a veto on that. I think that's important, because when you see the high level of the agencies that are going to be swept, and when there's balances that are in place, there's no way of knowing what's in those agencies and what those line items that will be swept, and fortunately, you guys were on top of it and had that taken care of. We also had an issue dealing with the Department of Transportation. I want to thank Department of Transportation for their work as well, and their understanding of what the needs are in our community. There was some basically red tape that was holding up a possibility for the city to move forward with either a loan or with some funding available. The letter was sent out, and we were fortunate to have that move forward, and I'm assuming that it's moving in a positive direction. So there was some important aspects that took place outside of the budget, but dealt with the budget here. I think that when we look and see issues that take place, I think you're well represented in the legislature, not only by our own council, but also with the Municipal League. And I have to say that I'm grateful for the work that the Municipal League does. Sitting on Senate Finance, there's a lot of issues that come before us, and I can tell you that Bill Fulgenetti and the representation that you have there, including Councilor Benson, who's been up there many times representing the Municipal League, that's extremely important, because that gives us insight to what is taking place or what's about to take place. I wish I could say that hold harmless issue was behind us, and it's not. The hold harmless issue that has hit the town of Silver, probably more so than any other community, is something that's very real and very alive, because there's a lot of money that the state can take in and help balance our budget. But I'll contend and continue to contend that you can't balance your budget on the backs of local governments. Weak local governments equals a weak state. These are the initiatives that are going to be brought forward in the special session. I think that there's going to be an effort to try to speed the hold harmless provisions along, which mean that there would be a bigger impact and a quicker impact to the city. Those are things that we'll need to keep an eye on, as I have a concern there. When we look and see how the budget is going to be balanced, currently as we sit today, the legislative funding is completely gone, vetoed. The funding for higher education, every institution across the state, has been vetoed. We know that's not going to stand. 3 branches of government, legislative, executive, and judicial, all are part of the government process. We know it's not going to stand, but the message that was sent is forcing us into discussions within the special session. I don't agree with it, specifically when it comes to higher ed. When you have students who are about to graduate from high school, and they're looking to see which college or what universities that they're interested in, it doesn't bode well for the state of New Mexico when the messaging across the nation is that we just defunded our higher education institutions. We know it won't stand, but the messaging out there is a concern. You're going to hear many issues dealing with the budget, since portions of the budget was vetoed. I can say, in all honesty, that the budget that was brought forward in a bipartisan and a cooperative fashion. I think that there was impacts, and quite frankly, there was some tax increases in there. And it was the decision that we had to make. Are we going to try to fund government as best we can, because we've never recovered from 2010, or are we going to continue to cut government and the services that are so valuable across our state? That was the option that we had. Democrats and Republicans voted overwhelmingly to pass the budget in the Senate and to ensure that that budget was going to be as fair as possible, to help broaden our tax base and to ensure that we were going to have minimal impact to law enforcement, to education, to higher ed, to local governments, and the list can go on and on. Currently, as we sit right now, I think all options are back on the table. And I think that we can't fool ourselves to think that we can tax our way out of this. We can't cut our way out of this either. It's going to have to be a balanced approach. I don't see at this point that there's much appetite from the executive office to have some of these increases. Gasoline tax, for example, carried by Senator John Arthur Smith. Gasoline tax would have run in $50 million to the state. Big portion of that going to roads. And we know the impact of roads and where we're at with the roads, but the amount of jobs that come with that too. A portion of that would have gone to the reserves. Currently, as we sit, reserves are at 1%, meaning that when we go out for bonding, and our bonding rating is lowered, it's going to cost us more to borrow. These are concerns that I have, and they're very real. And as we go into the special session, all options, as I stated, should be on the table and come up with the best option. I can't support a budget that will only have it on the backs of cuts. We've got to have a balanced approach to ensure that we bring in revenues and to ensure that we have the appropriate cuts that need to take place. At this point, I'm not sure where we can actually look to cut. If we go in and cut, as has been proposed by the executive, a 3.5% cut to our teachers, 3.5% cut to our state employees, including university employees. That's basically sending a message that people are going to circulate or move into other areas that are thriving, because states around us are thriving. We can't continue to do this. So I'm hoping that we can have a healthy discussion, a balanced discussion. One of the things that you're going to hear, and I've spoken with Barrett City Council, I spoke with Hurley just a little while ago, and I'll keep emphasizing this, is you're going to hear the term tax reform. And the governor will constantly say tax reform. And I'm not being political, I'm just making sure that you get information that's out there. Tax reform is a code word for tax increases without being labeled tax increases. And I can tell you, the tax reform that's being proposed, just as it was in House Bill 412, the areas that would be taxed would be nonprofits, would be our local governments on your gross receipts, purchases that have to be made. So an impact to your budget. It could stretch as far as the sales at, go to a Little League game, purchase items from a concession stand, those would be taxed. I was at a high school baseball game, you purchase your ticket to get in, those will be taxed. So when you look and see, as it's called tax reform in the form of equity, it really is tax increases, but for the areas that can least afford it. And so these are the things that are going to be placed on the table. I'll be happy to give an update and a breakdown of everything. I can tell you some of the tax initiatives that went forward. The hospital tax, for example. We know that there's a lot of concerns of hospitals across the state, including here, but rural hospitals are well taken care of. And so for the tax, and every dollar that would have been assessed on hospitals, we would receive $4 back from the federal government as part of the Medicaid match program. So we lost out big right there in time that we desperately need those Medicaid dollars coming to the state. I hope that we can have a balanced bipartisan approach as we did in this legislative session. I hope that we can have continual discussion and information that's presented to you from the representation that you have from the town of Silver as well as your council. I want to thank Mr. Mayor and thank you for your efforts in continually trying to promote quality of life within Grant County and making sure that we have access to people in town of Silver City and the surrounding areas for access of opportunities. I know you continue to stay strong on that, and I appreciate that, because we've got to give opportunities not only to try to bring people in, but those individuals who live within our community. I want to thank Councilor Cano for also being in communication with me on a bill that she felt very strongly of, and that was in dealing with elections. And when you try to consolidate the elections, even though I know that they were going to exempt out the town of Silver and others, and they would have had that opportunity to exempt out, I still feel very strongly in local control and local government, and I appreciate the advocacy you did there. And actually, I'm glad that the governor vetoed that. Even though you guys, your concerns may have been taken care of, I'm still glad that that was vetoed. It needed to be, because we need to keep those at the local government level. With that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just want to one is ask a quick question as far as where we're at on our audits. Are our audits up to date at this point? Thank you. And I think I knew the answer to that, because the efficiency that you have, and Alex continues to do a wonderful job for the town of Silver. Any DFA projects that are still on hold, grant agreements not coming out, do we have issues with that still?
Received everything.
Okay. Great, thank you. And as we go forward again, I just want to make sure, as far as Colonias funding, are there any Colonias applications in for this new funding coming out?
Yes, we have 2 applications in right now. One for planning on Ridge Road Engineering, and the second one is for the water project along Highway 15. So we have those 2 in right now.
Thank you, and I do want to emphasize that capital outlay portion was vetoed as well, which affects your Colonias funding. And so we'll keep a close eye on that, and I think those projects are needed. Again, it helps circulate funds, but these are taxpayer dollars that are put to work, so hopefully that we can have some agreement there. I didn't see any projects on the list from the town of Silver that would be taken out or to be utilized in the general fund, so that means that the projects that you have, barring they're not being held by the Department of Finance with grant agreements, you're moving along as best you can financially. I'm here to support you, continually hear any questions that you have or any ideas that you have, please bring those forward, especially when we're looking at the special session, and could quite honestly define New Mexico for the next several years if we don't get it done right. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm open for any questions or any other updates.
Okay, does the council have any questions? Councilor Edison?
Thank you, Mayor. Senator Morales, I know that you talked about maybe speeding up the hold harmless. What do you think the atmosphere is like if they actually just take it all, starting July 1?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Edison. I think that's a real possibility. And the reason is because for every dollar that you can take away from somewhere else and not call it a tax increase, that's a balancing the budget. But what it's doing is it's really breaking the bank of local governments and those that can least afford it. So I think that's very real. And when you talk about compromise isn't always in the best interest of those that aren't at the table. And when that happens, that concerns me. And again, I rely heavily on your guys' communication and your advocacy as well as the municipal league, because I've been very outspoken from the beginning. When the hold harmless was taken away, the promise was broken in order to give corporate tax relief. I had concerns with that then, and I continue to have concerns, especially when I see the impacts to our local governments and providing basic services.
Thank you very much, Senator Morales. We're honored to have you represent us, and you do such a tremendous job. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, and I just want to say that Grant County Day was another success. I thought we had some wonderful accomplishments with that. I urge everybody, if possible, to be part of that, because it does make a difference. It brings dollars back to our community, because people know that we're an active community. We did say that, Mr. Mayor, we missed you, Councilor Ray. We understand that the veterans weren't able to be there this year because of a funeral, but we definitely, the invitation's there for next year to have you and the veterans be a part of that celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Councilor Edison?
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
We have a motion for a short break. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Councilman Smith? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm calling our meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is public hearings. And if you've never been in a public hearing, I have to counsel you to be patient because there's some things that I just have to read and a procedure I have to go through to make this a legal process. We will be considering the approval/disapproval of a restaurant beer and wine liquor license with on-premise consumption only with patio service. License application number 1033863. Applicant name is Revell, LLC, DBA Revell. Proposed location, 304 North Bullitt Street, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061. The hearing will the town council will serve as the hearing board, and I, as mayor, will be the presiding officer. First, the applicant shall present his or her case. Next will come witnesses in support of the applicant's case. The applicant or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the applicant if that concludes his or her case in chief, and will state that the applicant and his or her witnesses shall remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board or by opponents to the appeal/application. Following the close of the applicant's case, witnesses in opposition to the applicant's case shall be permitted to testify, during the course of which the witness may address questions to any previous witness, but such questions shall be made through the presiding officer. The presiding officer shall have the sole discretion in directing the question for response, considering whether the question is relevant, is cumulative to other testimony, or is otherwise inappropriate. Have any members of this hearing board had any ex parte discussions with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communications from any party in this case? Let the records reflect that no counselor has indicated any such discussion or communication. Will all parties and witnesses intending to testify, including those staff members who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise to be sworn in by the town clerk. If you have not been sworn, you will not be permitted to testify or otherwise participate in this hearing.
Please repeat after me. I state your name. I, Kelsey Patterson, do solemnly swear or affirm. Do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony I am about to give. That the testimony I am about to give. In the matter before this council. In the matter before this council. Is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Under penalty of perjury. Under penalty of perjury. Okay, just stay right there.
Thank you. Who will be representing the application? Would you please identify yourself? And I think the microphone might be on, but you should check and see.
I believe it's on. Hi, I'm Kelsey Patterson on behalf of Revel LLC. I am here to ask thank you to the mayor and the council for hearing my petition for a beer and wine restaurant license. Sorry, there's a reason why I was behind the scenes in theater, public speaking, not my strong suit. Essentially, we are requesting the restaurant beer and wine license. We're currently operating as a restaurant without one, and we're just wishing to offer the ability to enjoy beer and wine to our patrons when they're enjoying food as well.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council for Ms. Patterson?
have one question.
Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you. I noticed that the application includes patio service. Yes. So are you going to be able to assure that no teenagers come into your patio and snag a beer?
Yes, because to be seated in the patio, you have to come through the front of the restaurant. You have to be greeted by the host and then be seated out back on the patio. The gates are locked at all times. So people, all of our servers have undergone the server training and currently have their serving cards, as do all the management.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Since you have no witnesses, does this conclude your case in chief?
I believe so.
Okay. Are there any persons who wish to, well, we didn't have anyone else sworn in, so there would be nobody speaking in opposition. Is there anything else the applicant wishes to be reflected in the record?
Maybe just perhaps that the restaurant that was previously operating there had a beer and wine license prior, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is the hearing board prepared to consider the application?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ray.
I move to approve of a restaurant beer and wine liquor license with on-premise consumption only with patio service. License application number 1033863, applicant name Revel LLC, DBA Revel, proposed location 304 North Bullard Street, Silver City, New Mexico 88061.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion as stated.
Councilor Kano, thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, we have a motion as read. I'm sorry, Councilor Kano. We have a motion as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mr. Brown, did you have something to say, or?
No, I'm getting ready for the next item.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Patterson. The next item on the agenda requiring action is unfinished business. Item 10A is the approval/disapproval of ordinance number 1255, an ordinance approving an operating and lease agreement providing for a long-term lease with Hidalgo Medical Services Incorporated to manage and provide services to the Silver City Senior Citizen Center under the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 48-24 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. Mr. Brown?
Madam Council, as you know, this is the second time this has come to the council, and according to town ordinance for long-term leases of town-owned property, we have to go through the ordinance process. Attached to the ordinance 1255 is the negotiated lease agreement with HMS, who will be operating the senior citizens using our senior citizen center up on Chihuahua Hill as a Silver City site for their program. And the lease has been approved by the Area Agency on Aging as well. So everyone's on board with this lease. The compensation will be the services that the program provides against the lease payment.
Okay. Is that it, Mr. Brown?
Oh, yes, the original agreement that was attached was an MOA. We changed it to a lease agreement. So that's the only change from the...
Right. Does the council have any questions for Mr. Brown?
Comment.
Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I think it's very complete and spells out everything that each entity is supposed to do. So I appreciate the detail.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve of ordinance number 1255, an ordinance approving an operation and lease agreement providing for a long-term lease with Hidalgo Medical Services, Inc., to manage and provide services to the Silver City Senior Citizens Center under the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 48-24 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Kano.
I'll second that motion as stated.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Are there any questions or comments from the general public? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Kano?
Aye.
Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith? Aye. Councilor Madison?
Aye.
It's unanimous in the affirmative. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is 11, new business. Agenda item 11A is the approval/disapproval of 2 public celebration permits applications for the annual Toad Fest Brewers Guild Tap Takeover on Saturday, April 29, 2017, with alcohol service from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. at 200 North Bullitt Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Sponsor, Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery. Liquor license holder information. 1, Little Toad Creek LLC, DBA, Little Toad Creek Brewery, license number 67085, HC 68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico. And 2, Little Toad Creek LLC, DBA, Little Toad Creek Distillery, license number 63013, HC 68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico. I believe Ms. Dalberdine is going to make this presentation.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Thank you for hearing this evening. This is an application for our 4th annual Toad Fest, which is also sponsored by the New Mexico Brewers Guild, which is just a wonderful organization that provides support to all of us brewers across the state. We had to change our plans at the very last minute. What we've done in the years past is we have closed the street in front of our restaurant, the Toad downtown, and we found out just last week, in fact, after I'd submitted this application, that the Trail Days, Capstone Divide Trail organization is also doing a street closure on the same day. So Mr. Brown asked us to get together and see what we could figure out, some sort of a compromise, and after talking to the organizers, it seemed it would be very difficult for them to move their event. So we came up with a proposal to have our event extend into the back alley behind the Toad instead of onto the front street. So this will be a new experiment. We've looked at a lot of issues, making sure that we have safety and appropriate lighting back there. We've spoken with our neighbors who own the Pink stores, Yvonne and Sergio Romero, and they're excited about it. They've given us permission to extend onto their property, so it will only affect our property and the Romero's property. And we discovered that the town actually doesn't own that property, so while they have offered support if we need it in closing the alley down for that day, we don't actually need their permission for a street closure. So it's sort of a new experiment, but we hope it made it easy for the Trail Days organizers to not have to shift their event. They have a lot of people coming from out of town, and so we hope that you will also approve of this and give us the opportunity to give it a shot. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Madison?
Thank you, Mayor. Because it extends into the property of the Pink store, so it would need the approval of both you Both property owners. Both signatures are required on this, correct?
That is absolutely correct, and if you will allow us to get that signature, I just got back into town, I've been gone for the last 10 days, and this all happened while I was out of town, so I'm hoping you will allow us to go ahead and approve the application and get her signature before I mail it to the state.
Okay, so you'll talk with the Romeros to get their signature as well then?
Yes, she's already agreed to sign it, she's just in Palomas, and I was gone, so it was hard to coordinate.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Kano?
I know that you're probably just barely starting to think about these things, but my only concern is if I'm not mistaken, the alley, the other side of it is up against the ditch, right? So are you going to put a more solid fence than that normal plastic stuff that normally gets put up?
Yeah, so we now have our metal wire fence, which is 5 foot high, so we'll have that and put some sandbags against the back, some ballast and sandbags to make sure that people are safe there, because we've definitely noticed that concern as well.
Any other questions for Ms. Delberdine? Thank you very much. Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ray?
I move to approve of 2 public celebration permits applications for the annual Toad Fest Brewers Guild Tap Takeover on Saturday, April 29, 2017, with alcohol services from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. at 200 North Bullard Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Sponsor, Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distilling. Liquor license holder information. 1. Little Toad Creek LLC DBA Little Toad Creek Brewery, license number 67085, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico. And 2. Little Toad Creek LLC DBA Little Toad Creek Distillery, license number 63013, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico.
We have a motion, is there a second? Councilor Kano? Councilor Kano.
Can I have a question that motion is stated?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions or comments from the general public here tonight? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item, 11B, is approval/disapproval of 2 public celebration permit applications for the 22nd anniversary of the Silver City Blues Festival to be held from May 26 through May 28, 2017 on Polk Street between 11th and 12th Streets. Alcohol will be served on May the 26th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., on May the 27th from noon to 10 p.m., and on May 28th from noon to 5 p.m. Sponsor, Members Regional Arts Council. Liquor license holder information. Little Toad Creek LLC DBA Little Toad Creek Brewery, license number 67085, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico, and Little Toad Creek LLC, DBA Little Toad Creek Distillery, license number 63013, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico. I believe, Kevin, are you making this presentation?
So thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We have some nice, exciting changes for this year's Blues Fest. One is that the Little Toad will be partnering with us. They will be occupying the same spot that we've had for the Beer and Spirits Pavilion in the past, same footprint as in the past. Obviously, they have a lot of experience, and we're excited about selling New Mexico beer and supporting local businesses.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Bedington.
Thank you, Mayor. So, the only question I have is, there's a discrepancy between the radius around the Blues Festival beer garden. I know that it's fine the way it is, but you have the beer garden in the location that your map says is the Gila Glass Classic rather than closer to the little triangle where it says Beer and Spirits Pavilion. So I would just ask that the maps be consistent.
Sure.
I think that, so that little triangle that's up there, that's normally where it's closer to, so just make sure that all the maps are consistent. Thanks.
One's the scale and one wasn't the scale.
Yeah, and I understand that, but it's also something that I don't know if anyone else will pick up, so.
Any other questions from the council?
Madam Council?
Mr. Brown?
On the description of the agenda item, it says it's going to be on Pope Street between 11th and 12th Street. It's actually between 11th and 13th Street. I don't know if the 11th through 13th Street. Physical address. I think we need to change the physical address of where the location of the event, because that's on Pope between 11th and 13th Street. 12 and 13.
Yeah.
That's where the beer tent's going to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the license, we use the 1200 block of North Pope Street, but that's the cross streets.
Yes, so we need to put Pope Street between 11th and 12th.
12th and 13th.
12th and 13th.
Got it.
Thank you, Chief Reynolds. Chief Reynolds, are you okay with this?
Mayor, City Council, it's going to be the same setup as we usually do for this. The beer garden is going to be between 12th Street and 13th Street. However, they're going to block off from 11th Street all the way up to 13th Street, portion of 12th Street, on the west side of Pope and 12th, all the way over to Main Street. So it's pretty much the same setup as it's been.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Although that's the location that's being closed off, for this application, we just need the location of the beer tent where the alcohol is being served.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
I think that's yours.
Councilor Kano?
Mayor, I move to approve of two public celebration permit, I move to approve of two public celebration permit applications for the 22nd anniversary of the Silver City Blues Festival to be held from May 26th through 28th, 2017 on Pope Street between 11th and 13th, right? 12th and 13th, excuse me. Between 12th and 13th Streets. Alcohol will be served on May 26th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., on May 27th from noon to 10 p.m., and on May 28th from noon to 5 p.m. Sponsor, Members Region Arts Council. Liquor license holder information. Number 1, Little Toad Creek LLC, doing business as Little Toad Creek Brewery. License number 67085, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico. And number 2, Little Toad Creek LLC, doing business as Little Toad Creek Distillery. License number 63013, HC68, Box 134, Silver City, New Mexico.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bedison?
I second the motion as stated.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions from the general public? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I remember when the Blues Fest first started, I think it was behind Branchwood Field Center on the campus of WNMU. And there was a little tent set up back there. It was kind of a humble beginning, so you've come a long way in 22 years. Thank you. You're one of the signature events of our community. Next on the agenda is 11C, the approval/disapproval of one special dispenser permit application for the Tour of the Gila VIP reception on Saturday, April 22nd, 2017, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 601 North Bullitt Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Sponsor, W&N Enterprises Incorporated. Liquor license holder information, W&N Enterprises Incorporated. DBA Snappy Mart number 204, Post Office Box 559, Silver City, New Mexico. Jack? Yes. Council Edison.
Doesn't this also require a waiver of New Mexico statute annotated 60-6B-10? Because we have a letter from the Church of the Good Shepherd, which is within the radius. But it's not listed on it's attached.
It's attached, yes.
But we need to add that to the description of what we're doing today.
Is the dispenser permit within a certain range of a church?
Yes.
It's within the Episcopal Church.
Episcopal
Good
Church.
Shepherd.
Yes.
Your motion should include granting the waiver.
Okay, so when you do the motion, then it needs to include the waiver.
Well, we're not ready for a motion yet.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I caught that.
Thank you. Yes, we're applying for the first time for this VIP reception that we've been doing for years and years. And when I approached W&N Enterprises to be involved with this year, Ray Marcus was the one who said we need to get a permit, and so that's why we're here. Ray sent it up to Santa Fe. It was denied and sent back to the city. And the folks in Santa Fe were saying we need to get the mayor's signature on this, and that's why we're before you. So in years past, we did not apply for this dispenser permit, and I think we probably should have been doing that. So we'll be on I guess, above board this year with this permit. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilor Khan?
Okay, so now that you're getting this permit, does that mean that you're going to have a way of knowing who should be drinking and who shouldn't? I mean, are you going to have like wristbands or something like they usually do?
We send out invitations, and we will have a master list, and Ray will have his staff there checking people with the VIP passes and such.
Okay. I've attended this event several times, and probably around noon it gets super crazy, and there's people in and out, in and out, in and out. So is there going to be more security this year?
There will be more security, and we don't really start planning on serving beverages and food items at about 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Councilor Benson?
I just want to echo what Councilor Kano said. I have a few questions. In years past, that's also where the racers would come in and sign. So that's going to be withdrawn from that area?
We'd like to keep it there, but we haven't got to the point of actually doing that. You're shaking your head, no, we should not be doing
I don't
that.
think you can have it in there because you have to check all of them. And I just want to make sure that, that's such a low area, the little fancy thing that's right there, and people can come up through a stairwell. But, in years past, I've seen people take a beer and then cross over and onto public property.
Gotcha.
Or pass beer over onto public property, and that's of concern, because if you get something like this, you do have to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Correct.
Correct? Councilor Scavron? Correct, Councilor Scavron? They have to ensure that beer and alcohol stays within the area so designated?
Absolutely. Okay.
And that would mean it would be problematic with all the bicyclists coming in and out like that.
Okay. We'll move it outside.
But it also includes that whole area that you have, there's like that little tiny, like 2-rail fence, you know, the metal fence that goes around. Because people have come from the other side, from the Hub Plaza, and have taken alcohol and moved into the plaza with it.
There would also be the potential of blocking the sidewalk, and I don't think you want that to happen either.
We're not blocking any sidewalks.
No, if you were allowing the bicyclists to come and go,
Okay,
it could cause that problem,
okay.
especially if they have their bicycles with them.
Which they do.
Which they do, yes. Okay, we'll move that out of that area.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ray.
I move to approve a one special dispenser permit application for the Tour de Gila VIP reception on Saturday, April 22nd, 2017, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 601 North Fuller Street, Silver City. Sponsored WNN Enterprises, Inc. Liquor license holder information, WNN Enterprise, Inc., DBA Snappy Mart, number 204, P.O. Box 559, Silver City, New Mexico, and they have granted a waiver.
Granted.
It's granted a waiver, right? Granted.
ING, granted. A waiver.
Granted.
A waiver.
Okay, grant a waiver. Yes, grant a waiver of New Mexico statute annotated number 60-6B-10, the prohibition of the dispensing of alcohol within 300 feet of a church property.
Okay, is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I will second that motion as stated.
Mr. Cano, thank you. Any discussion? Any comments from the general public? All in favor of the motion as read and amended? We amended the motion. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 11D is the approval/disapproval of resolution number 2017-10, amendment to the Town of Silver City Employees Personnel Manual. Mr. Brown?
Mayor, Council, according to the personnel manual, I have the authority to hire, fire, promote, demote employees of the Town of Silver City. As part of the disciplinary process, we have progressive discipline, which starts out at verbal warning, written warning, suspension, demotion, termination. The one issue under the demotion part of the discipline, it doesn't say that I have the authority to place them in an open position. Or if we have an employee who has been promoted and feels that they are having a hard time doing the new job, but there is an open position that they are qualified to do, the personnel manual does not specifically give me the authority to do it, although this has been happening since I've been an employee with the town, I know for sure. And I've done it multiple times, either allowed an employee to step down into a lower classification job that they are qualified to do. But recently, we had an issue with one of the unions where they felt I did not have the specific authority to demote an employee actually allow him to step down into a lower classification position that he had actually worked in before. With this, it specifically gives me authority to demote and place that employee into a position that they are qualified to work in.
Any questions?
I actually have a question.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I understand the situation here. However, since this is going to be amending to include that paragraph under disciplinary procedures, it sounds like there would have to be those previous disciplinary actions taken to have a person be able to step from one role into another. Is that so, or is there a language that is in the manual that I'm not seeing that would mean that a person could just request or discuss with the town manager a preference for stepping down?
The way that we worded this, the way it's included into the personnel manual, we specifically say we have to amend the hiring policy to say allow me to put someone that is currently employed with the town from a higher a position that requires higher qualifications. I could allow them to step into a lower classification position without opening the position up to the general public. And as far as the disciplinary procedures, this just changes the wording under in the demotion. We still have the verbal, written suspension, demotion, termination.
Okay. I'm going to have to press you here, but it really does, the way this reads, it reads to me like any such employee would need to go through the disciplinary process. And I'm hoping that that's not true. It sounds like that's not true.
We're changing the hiring process.
Okay.
Because an employee because the employee who is stepping down from a higher classification position to a lower classification position will not have been going through disciplinary process.
Okay.
We just needed to change the hiring process so that it allowed me to do that.
Okay. I see how that's not working out. Thank you.
Councilor Kano?
If there's someone who needs to be demoted, and then there's someone who's who's qualified to be promoted to that same position, then is someone who's being punished going to get a job over someone who should be promoted because they're doing a good job? Does that make sense? Like if you have a position available and you're going to demote someone into that position when someone who is lower could have gone up a position.
Yes, I understand where you're going. The reason that, for instance, the only way I would demote an employee is if what they were doing was based on their performance in the position, not for drinking on the job or something like that. Because they were promoted to a position and they've been trying to do it. We've been working with them to be able to do it, but they just couldn't do it. Now, when they're demoted to that other position, they would have already been doing that position before. So, and they would have more experience in most cases. It's just, that's...
Councilor Madison?
Okay, so I just want to pick up where Councilor Amon Smith was discussing. So it's in the hiring policy, and I noted that it doesn't just say, it says during disciplinary procedures or other unusual circumstance requiring demotion or reassignment. So it's that other unusual where an employee could come to you and say, I really don't feel comfortable doing this position, we've been working together, but I'd really rather go back down to where I was.
Yes. In fact, the personnel manual, it specifically spells it out for a supervisor. If you're promoted to a supervisory position, you're put on probation in that position for a certain period of time. But if there is no open positions for me to put you in, I would have to leave them off.
Yes.
But if there is an open position, then I can move them back down to the position that they were doing very well and sort of justify why they qualified to be promoted.
Mm-hmm.
But some people just don't like to be supervisors, can't get those skills. That's the unusual circumstances that it doesn't happen all the time. It's probably happened twice in the 15 years that I've been manager, that somebody asked to be return to their previous position. But I never had any of the unions complain about it.
But this will provide the opportunity for that?
Yes.
Okay.
That as well.
Great, thank you.
I understand.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? I just have one question. Under the hiring policy, or his designee in his absence, so that last sentence, the employee is assigned to a position under these circumstances, you're not talking about who you're going to designate to make this decision, right? It's the person that's being hired.
No, I'm talking about if I'm out of town, James can do it.
So is this likely to happen in the short period you're out of town? And who would that designee be normally?
It would be James. The assistant town manager would be able to do it. Before James, I would, when I was leaving town, I would designate a acting town manager while I was out. And for in an emergency situation, they would do it. If need be, they would call me, but they would be able to sign the paperwork to have it officially done. If I'm out somewhere where I can't be communicated, I trust James to be able to make the right decisions because he's got Celia's expertise, Robert's assistance in making the right decisions. So that's the only cases when I'm out of town, and it's an emergency situation that has to be dealt with right away.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? Council Amon Smith?
You want this one? No. I move to approve resolution number 2017-10, amendment to the Town of Silver City Employees Personnel Manual.
Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Bedison?
I second the motion as stated.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call, Ann. Yeah.
Councilor Edison? Aye. Councilor Amos Smith? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Kano? Aye.
The ayes are unanimous, the motion carries. Item 11E is the approval/disapproval of resolution number 2017-13, a resolution supporting a public-private economic development Main Street project. I believe Mr. Patrick Hoskins is going to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, Town staff. My name is Patrick Hoskins. I'm the board president of the Silver City Main Street project. We are here asking for your approval of a memorandum of understanding between the town and the Silver City Main Street project. This agreement this memorandum outlines our understanding between the parties, the services that we provide, and our partnership with the town. This is something that the state requires we have in place to show that we are actually working together. We, again, do this in front of council every 2 years. So I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve a resolution number 2017-13.
No, it's for 13, yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, Councilor.
11E.
I move to approve a resolution 2017-13, a resolution supporting a public-private economic development Main Street project.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Councilor Bedison.
I second the motion as stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Kano? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Amos Smith? Aye. Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, 11F, is the approval/disapproval of bid number 16-17-4, CDBG Water System Improvements. Mr. Brown?
Madam Council, this is our CDBG project that we were awarded in November of last year, I believe, or March of last year. We were awarded $475,776. That was the grant award. It is a water line replacement project in the Chihuahua Hill neighborhood to include water lines, water main, gate valves, fire hydrants, and other materials required to fix the street. The project is specifically on Richard, Daniel, Dorothy, and Theodore Streets. Okay, the town received 3 bids for the project. One from J&S Plumbing and Heating for $354,965.50. Another from File, and all of these do not include gross receipts tax. File Construction LLC in the amount of $379,949. And Ducross Construction LLC, $386,216.50. It's staff's recommendation to award bid 16/17-4, 2016 CDBG water improvements to J&S Plumbing for the amount of $354,965.50 plus gross receipts taxes for a total amount of $362.74. So we're well below the grant award.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ray?
I move to approve a bid 16-17-4, CDBG Water System Improvements. My staff yes, thank you. To J&S Plumbing and Heating, Inc., P.O. Box 656, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061, for a amount of $354,965.50 plus the GRTs, for a total amount of $383,362.74.
Is there a second? Councilor Edison.
I second the motion stated.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 11C is the budget discussion for fiscal year 2017-2018. Mr. Brown, could you, when you make your presentation or for discussion, could you kind of give us a preview of how this process is going to play out in the next several council meetings?
We're required to have two budget hearings. One budget hearing and then a second one when we adopt the preliminary budget. But because we're going to have to make some hard decisions, as you'll see here in a little bit. I will be bringing back some, based on your recommendations and your direction from tonight, I'm going to have another budget hearing at our next council meeting as well. As well as the first meeting in May, depending on how much massaging we need to do to get to what you guys decide you want. So we will, rather than having 2 this year, we're going to actually have 4. I will go back and work with the department heads based on your recommendations today. Basically, the budget, as far as general fund, there were no increases. Operatings, there was 0% increase in operations. The only thing that there were increases were to union cost of living increases and a small increase that was negotiated with ASME last year. So that is the only change in salaries and benefits. There was a 1% increase in health insurance, but you really didn't see it because a changeover in some of the employees. We lost some of the older employees with families that retired, and now we've got younger employees who are on single plans. So those changes ate up some of the, almost all of that increase that we would have seen on the health insurance. With that, I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to start with what's happening with hold harmless and how it's going to affect us, how it's already affecting us, and why it's sort of making this year's budget hard. On the first page, what I gave you was what the actual hold harmless was for fiscal year 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. 2016 was the first year that the phase-out started. In fiscal 2018 will be our third year. I don't have an exact amount of the phase-out for 2017 because, of course, we haven't finished the fiscal year, but as you can see, it's going to be very close to what it was in 2016 because the total that we received from hold harmless 2013, 14, and 15, which were full years without the phase-out, were very close. So because we're seeing a 6% phase-out year one, a 12% phase-out in year two, 18% phase-out in year three. So based on those numbers, the average hold harmless that we receive per year is $1,654,000. From the change from the average to what we saw phased out in year one, in 2016, we lost $109,000 in year one. So I'm compounding that we're going to see that actual amount be double that for this year. And then for fiscal year 2018 that we're working on right now, we should see a phase out of $329,000, close to $330,000. And then I wanted to show you that what the hold harmless 1/8 increment resulted in 2016. It raised $229,000. So we would already be, if we hadn't passed that 0.25% a couple years ago, we would already have had to pass one of the hold harmless increments. We chose not to because we wanted to be conservative and hoped that the state would fix their issues and not come after us, but as we saw earlier today, that doesn't seem that it's going to happen. My original plan, down at the bottom of the page, was to start imposing the hold harmless increments every 2 years, because we would lose $220,000 every 2 years, and the hold harmless 1/8 increment generates $229,000 every year. Then I was planning on proposing mill levy increases to property tax over a period of time, because the one mill generates approximately $200,000 a year. One of the problems with this current fiscal year that we're going to be working on is that right now, you'll see on the summary of the general fund, we're still $141,000 short of meeting our 1/12 reserve. The problem there is that I've got to work in some transfers in there, so that number is going to be closer to $250,000 short of the 1/8 of the 1/12 reserve required, and that's with staying flat, other than those cost of living increases. So we have three options. One is you direct me to go back and cut in whatever areas you want me to look at. Number 2, we can impose one of the property tax mill levies, which will be in effect for the entire year, and we will see it during the fiscal year, and that'll generate approximately $200,000, and then I'll work out the other $50,000. Or the third option is, we're too late to impose the hold harmless gross receipts tax now for July 1, so we would impose it for January 1, but we wouldn't start seeing it until March. So we would only see 4 months of it, and we would only generate about $76,000. So that means I still would have to cut $180,000 from the budget. I did go back and I've looked at some options. I think one of the things that we do need to look at, both cutting, or if not cutting, we can, in all 3 of the union contracts, it says that if funds are available for their salary increases, well, here, funds are not available, so one of my recommendations is to postpone the cost of living increases for this next year. That'll save us about $80,000. So that'll leave us with what, 170. So if we go with the hold harmless, I would have to cut about $100,000 out of the budget still, on top of the postponing those increases. So with that, what do you think you guys might want me to start looking at?
Well, as I was looking at this, if you do option 1, you still got to cut the budget by $250, right?
Yes.
$250?
Yes.
If you do option 3, we still have to cut it by 174,
Yes, about 174.
It seems to me, seems to me option 2 is the only viable we have, but let's hear a discussion from the council. Councilor Edison?
I think the only concern I have is we're talking about a $250,000 loss right now, but we don't know what's going to happen in the special session. That is the reason why I asked that question, Senator Morales. What does it look like? What is the temperature? And them actually saying on July 1, we have no hold harmless at all. And that, I have to admit, that's my concern, even whether it's that, which is a blanket take it all, or whether it's even, increasing it, so shortening the time. So it's not over 15 years, but it's over 3 or over 4 or something like that. So I guess for me, we could hopefully go along and think that this is all we're going to have to salvage is $250,000, but I think we're going to be looking at trying to find more than that. And I can only hope that before the time we have to submit the budget, that we'll know what the special session has in store for us.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to have a budget hearing every council meeting until we have to approve it. So that way we're on top of everything. If between now and the next council meeting, they have the special session, make their decisions, and say they do eliminate, if they eliminate hold harmless, we're looking at a $1.3 million cut next fiscal year. So that means very deep cuts. And, I think the only places that are safe are safety sensitive. Essential water, sewer, and sanitation, those aren't affected by the hold harmless because of because they're enterprise funds. Yes, that's a big risk. If they speed up the phase out, we might not see a $1.3 million. We may see, on top of our 250, we might not see another 400,000 or another 600,000. So every one of those scenarios. Right now, it's sad to say, but I'm proposing the best-case scenario.
I know, yeah.
But, I've dealt with this, we know the budget very well. The first thing that has to go is non-essential services. We've got to look at those quality of life services first. And still, if it was the $1.3 million, we could close the museum and the library and still not have enough cut. So, I was talking with James earlier about some additional cuts and changes that we can make to save a decent amount, but I think we're going to have to really, if the state of New Mexico is not going to if they're going to continue their pattern of putting all of the burden back on local governments, this is what we have to do. I mean, make drastic, the town of Silver City will completely change. I mean, we're not going to be able to help support the Blues Festival. We're not going to be able to help support all those things that we do all the time. We're not going to have all the quality of life things that we've known to enjoy. Because, there are some other taxes that can be imposed, but they have to be done through election. There are additional increments of gross receipts taxes that can be passed, but they have to go through an election. And so, all of these are time-consuming. And how high do we want our tax rate to be locally? That's, it's hard enough to compete. We're rural as it is. So people locally, it's cheaper a lot of times to shop online. So we have a lot of leakage from our community because we're so rural. And to have these types of things continue, it would have been nice if they would have put the internet tax, the sales on internet sales, because that would have been something really that helped us substantially. With that, I'm going to work, if it's okay with you, I will continue to work on this. Two things can fix our issue under a best-case scenario. One would be to impose a $1 million property tax. Number two would be to defer the union salary increases for this next fiscal year. I mean, we're not cutting their salary, which the governor is proposing for the state. We're just putting off the raises until we can figure out how we can afford to do them and keep their jobs, all of our jobs. And we're here to serve the community. And it's not about keeping our jobs, I shouldn't say it that way. It's about keeping the adequate staff to provide the service that the community has come to depend on. And so, if nothing changes, I will take those two issues back, and we'll have to pass a resolution to defer the raises, because we'll have to take an official action by the town council, because you already adopted the union contracts, so you have to do something that says we can't afford it, so we can't do it this year. That is general fund. On page 2, this is the total gross receipts that I'm projecting to see this next fiscal year. It's $9.5 million. This is compared to 2016, when we received $9.9 million. So, we're seeing big changes here. Okay, on page 3, there's where you see I'm looking at a projected beginning cash balance of $600,000 in the general fund. It's $664,000 in the general fund. That's cash and investment. Budgeted revenues of $9.46 million. $85,000 in transfers out. That's going to go up to, because of some debt service payments, that's going to go up about $100,000, a little over $100,000. And projected expenses are at $9.4 million, leaving an estimated ending cash balance of $642,000, and our required reserve on those expenditures is $783,000. So we're not even meeting that right now. So, and the fact, and me adding to those transfers out, those are loans, that's debt service. It's not like we can't pay those. So I have to build that in. You'll see on the next page, there's some small increases to 2% to salaries and benefits. That's about $90,000. That's those salary increases. I estimated at 80, but now that I see it right there, it's about $90,000 that we've saved there from deferring that. And then if you go down on the next page is all the operating expenses, you'll see that everything is at 0% increase, 0% change, all the way through. There are some decreases where some of the insurances and things like that, liability insurances and like that have gone down a little bit. With that, do you have any additional questions on the general fund? Any more questions? Okay, with that, I'm going to go on to the water sewer fund. The water sewer fund is doing fine. Revenues are up about 5% from last year. So on Appendix A are the proposed rates for next year. They are exactly the same as they are this year. I am not proposing any rate increases for next year. So in the water sewer fund, we're looking at $5.4 million in revenues, $747,000 increase in transfers out. Those are all loans. It's gone up like $170,000 from last year, and that is that Highway 15 loan. Okay. Hopefully, like I told Senator Morales, we do get the Colonias grant so that we can pay that and then not have to pay the loan. We'll have to pay 1 year of loan payment, but we'll have the money back from the loan, and we'll pay it from that, and then we can revert all the money back next year. So it'll save us $170,000 over the next 3 years. We're looking at $4.3 million in expenditures, with a $376,000 ending cash balance. And per the water ordinance, we're required to keep a 1/12 reserve. That reserve is not required to stay there. It's basically a bank account for projects that come up through the year. And like for instance, this year, we spent, I paid off the debt service for the bridge loan, $181,000 out of that. We bought a new backhoe for $90,000. We did a $60,000 project, a partnership, the county project, Tucasa. And then we are going to do a partnership with a private individual that wants to get water to their property, but we can extend the water main that she's going to pay for about 100 feet, and we'll loop Rosedale Water Association. So we'll get them additional source of water. So they actually talked to me last week, and Rosedale is really excited about that because it's going to help their system immensely. Okay, so really there's no changes in the you go to the next page is the summary for the water sewer fund. Basically, when you go down to the second, there's an 11% increase in transfers out. When you look at personnel and all expenditures, it's at 0% increase. Okay? The next page is the Appendix A for the sanitation fund. Here, we have not had a rate increase in the sanitation fund in the last 4 years because in the original rate ordinance that established rates, I believe was back in 1998, They had a automatic rate, 3% rate increase every year that went through last 4 years ago, and it stopped. And I didn't bring anything to request that we raise the rate. But because of inflation, things like that, some of the uncertainty from the recycling program, because it's become so successful, I'm sort of worried that people are going to start going to smaller containers, and we're going to generate less revenue. We are also going to have less tipping fees at the same time, but that does not help me with the inflationary cost that I've eaten up over the last 4 years. So what I'm proposing is, if you look at the very top, under sanitation collection and disposal, cost for each size of residential container, I'm not proposing any change to the senior rate. I am proposing a $1.60 change on the collection cost to the 35-gallon, the 65-gallon, and the 95-gallon. So that will increase all of those to $11 from $9.40. I am not proposing any changes to the disposal cost, because that's directly tied to the cost of tipping fees at the landfill. I am also proposing increasing commercial, all by $1.60 as well. And then if you look at the recycling rate, I'm also increasing those to match the collection rate for residential and the commercial 300-gallon tub. Okay? So that's what I've proposed for the sanitation fund. We're looking at estimated revenues of $2.3 million, estimated transfers of $320,000, and estimated expenditures of basically $1.98 million, leaving no reserve on that fund. The rate increase has not been included to these revenues, projected revenues. So we'd see about a $96,000 reserve, because I want to leave it there for the uncertainty of what's happening with the recycling program. Yes, ma'am.
So, just to go back a step, so that the sanitation rates up there in the top left corner, the collection will now be $11.
Yes.
Okay. The commercial doesn't have a number by it on mine.
Commercial right below that, the big table?
Oh, that's the big table. I thought that was the pickups per week.
Yeah, see, there's a big table because there's pickups per week.
Okay.
And that's the collection rate for commercial. All of those have been increased by $1.60.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the disposal side hasn't been changed.
Wasn't thinking it's all the way through.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there would be an approximate $96,000 reserve in the sanitation fund. If you go next to the summary, there is no increase to the rates, because I did not include that in this before I distributed it. And there's a slight increase to salary and benefits. Those costs are the new recycling collection employees. So that's what that is. And plus there's the union things also included there as well. So I don't have the lodger's tax here, but I have worked on it, and what we've seen over the last 2 years is revenues, lodger's tax revenues decreased from 2015 to 2016, 2%. We're seeing a 7% decrease from last year. So we're seeing a total decrease of 9% over the last 2 years. That, compared to the Arts and Cultural District's tourist numbers, are very contradictory. And so, where are those people staying? The only place you can think of at the Airbnbs that aren't taxed, but yet get that benefit of tourism advertising. So we're going to need to look at that. The allocation is going to go down by $20,000 this year. I have to because we just don't have the money based on the revenues. And so, although there was a lot of controversy about the Airbnb ordinance, they're getting a benefit that they're not paying their fair share for. And that's a decision you guys will need to decide on, but we've got the data right here. And it shows tourism's up, but our lodging tax revenues are down. So with that, do you have any questions?
Any questions? Well, this is our first round of discussions, so we appreciate it, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, so what I'll bring to you next time will be with the lodgers tax. I'll bring you lodgers tax. I'll bring you the adjusted general fund based on those changes that I'm recommending. And then the sanitation fund will be adjusted for the rate increase. And if we hear something about the legislative session, I'll bring you some additional scenarios. Okay? And yeah, I mean, if I have to make some big cuts, recommend some big cuts, my normal, I gave you what my thoughts were, was, non-essential services, quality of life are the ones that get hit the hardest. And I'll base it on what we see from the session. If that's okay, I'll do that. If you guys want to give me some additional recommendations between now and the next council meeting, please contact me and let me know your thoughts. But James and I will be looking at some other things, and Anita, and seeing, and I'll start meeting with the department heads more and see, they need to know. Some of them, it's not your fault, it's not our fault, it's not our community's fault. This is coming from up north. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. The last item on the agenda, 11H, is appointments to the Cemetery Board. Mr. Jeff Fell, Chairman of the Cemetery Board, has recommended the appointments of Paul Baca and Dale Giese to the Cemetery Board. I would like to appoint them to the Cemetery Board if the council concurs with that. Hearing no objections, then Mr. Paul Baca and Mr. Dale Giese are so appointed to the Cemetery Board. This concludes the business of the town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Bedison.
I move to adjourn. It's the best one, too. Yes.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion